Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Bonsai Network podcast. I am your host, Bjorn Bjorholm, and once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining me on this podcast adventure. Now, you might notice that the sound quality of this podcast is different than the previous two episodes, and that is because I'm coming to you from on the road. So I am actually in Kyoto, Japan at this moment, and I'm here for several different reasons. So the first reason is that I'm here to film an advanced online bonsai course with Bonsai Empire. So for those of you who haven't seen it, I put together an online beginner course and an online intermediate course several years ago with Bonsai Empire, and we've decided to move that forward and do an online advanced course. So I'm in Kyoto right now to film some of the sections for that course that require me to be here. More specifically, we're going to be talking about bonsai aesthetics and design as they relate to Japanese aesthetics and design, and also some of the cultural influences that we talked about in the last podcast. I'm going to be talking in more depth about those in the advanced course. So I wanted to be in the cultural ancient capital of Japan to do some of the filming for that particular segment. So I'm very excited to be back here. I actually lived in Kyoto for about 3 years. As part of my apprenticeship, I lived up here and I would commute down to the nursery on a daily basis. So it's really exciting to be back in the city. Very, very happy to be here. It's my favorite city in the entire world, and this is a great time of year to be here. So very, very excited to be back here. The second reason that I'm here is to help Fujikawa-san prepare some of the trees for the kokufu. So I will be going back to the nursery, Kouka-en down in Osaka, to help him work on some of the trees for both the show and for the vendor area. So Fujikawa-san, every year he goes up and takes trees to the kokufu, both to put in the exhibition and to sell, but his main focus really is to sell. So most of the work I'll be doing down at the nursery will be to help him prepare some of those trees that are going to be going up for sale at the kokufu vendor area. And then the third reason that I'm here is because for the kokufu, my wife Nancy and I, we are going to be hosting a tour. We're going to be taking 24 people from all different parts of the world. They're going to be coming to Japan to meet us here, and we're going to be taking them to all of the famous bonsai gardens all over the country. And of course, we're going to be visiting some of the famous sites and tasting out some of the really good food here. So very excited to be doing that as well. And then of course, at the very end, we're going to take everybody up to Tokyo for the Kokufu 10. So it should be a good time, and 24 people, that's a lot of people to have in a tour group, but with Nancy's guidance, I think we're going to have a very successful tour. So she really is the power behind the tours, so I really have to give her mad props for putting all that together and making it run as smoothly as it does. So in this podcast, I am going to feature an interview, or more of a conversation really, that I had with Naoki Maeoka, who is my kohai at Kouka-en. So a kohai is the person who is directly below you in an organization, and in this case at the nursery, Maeoka-san was the apprentice who came in just after I did. So he came in about 2 years after I started my apprenticeship, so he is my kohai. But he agreed to do the interview with me or participate in the podcast, so I'm really grateful for that. And then Thomas Ulecki, who is our new apprentice, is also part of the conversation. So it was a great conversation between the three of us, and I hope it's as interesting for you as it was fun for me to do the podcast with these guys, because Maeoka-san has been at the nursery for many, many years. I guess about almost 9 years at this point. So I've known him for nearly a decade, and he's had a lot of very interesting experiences at the nursery, both as an apprentice and now working at the nursery as a professional. So it's interesting to get his perspective on things. And then, of course, Thomas is our new apprentice, and he's only been at the nursery for about 8 months or so. So you get this really interesting mix of Maeoka-san's long-term experience and then of Thomas's new experience coming from a Western context to the Japanese context and doing an apprenticeship here. So again, I hope it's as interesting for you as it was for me to have the conversation with these guys. And before we jump into it, though, I want to tell you a couple of things. Maeoka-san is not a native English speaker, so there were a lot of instances where it might be a little difficult to understand what he said, but I tried to clarify what he said in the conversation as much as possible. So hopefully you'll pick up on all of that. And then the second thing is that We are recording kind of in a new situation here on kind of a run and gun type situation. So there is a little bit of clicking and ticking in the background with the microphone. So I do apologize for those audio issues, but I did try to clean it up as much as possible. So without further ado, I bring you Naoki Maeoka and Thomas Ulecki. All right, guys, welcome to my podcast. How's it going?
Well, tired.
You're tired? Okay. How about you?
Yeah, I'm also tired.
You're also tired? All right. So I'm here with the one and only Naoki Maeoka, and with our new apprentice Thomas. How do you say your last name?
Ulecki.
Ulecki. Okay. I thought it was Ulecki.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ulecki. All right. That's
Ulecki.
You can go with Ulecki.
All right. That's a Polish name, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Excellent. All right. So I think for this podcast, what I want to do is just talk to you guys about your experiences in Japan, and then also traveling overseas, and then maybe some of the cultural differences that you've noticed between how they do bonsai in places you've been overseas and how it's done here in Japan. So maybe first, though, the best thing is to get a little bit of background about both of you guys. So why don't we start with Maeoka-san? So Maeoka-san, you are the second apprentice to come to Kouka-en, right?
Yes.
So you are my kohai, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
I think
a subordinate for you.
yes, you are my subordinate, yes. Or as we like to say here, you're the bottom bitch to me.
Yes.
And Thomas is
All the
your
time.
bottom bitch. So
Forever.
forever. So where are you from originally in Japan?
Yeah, I'm from Osaka.
Okay.
I'm from Osaka, yeah.
Yeah, but not from this direct area, right? You're from a
No,
different area in
it's like-
Osaka, right?
I was born in Hiragata City.
Hirakata?
It's the only city in Osaka, how do you say that? Touched to Nara Prefecture and Kyoto Prefecture.
Oh, so it straddles all three, like Osaka,
Yeah.
Nara, and Kyoto?
Yeah.
Okay. And then before you came to Kouka-en, you did like graphic design, right?
Yes, I used to be a graphic designer.
Okay. Did you study that at university?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated Osaka University of Art.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What was the company that you worked for? Or what did you do for the company exactly?
Oh,
like
yeah.
what was your sort of general job
so
there?
So many things, like promote movies, and also like the planning direction signs. For
okay.
example, like in Kansai Airport.
So
So if you lost, it's my fault.
it's your fault. So you're the one you're the one that's responsible for all the bad English on the signs that you see everywhere.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, we call it we call it either English or Japanglish. You see the signs around, and they try to write them in English, but it's just like the grammar's completely wrong. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So why don't the companies there's so many people like me or like Thomas here who speak English natively. Why don't they hire like one of us to check the signs? I always wondered that. Yeah, that never made sense to me.
No idea. It's like.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Plus the shame of like, oh no, it was wrong.
right. Yeah, they lose face, I guess, because of it. Yeah.
I do know, like maybe still alien or something.
Yeah, it's just too far out there. Yeah. So the movie posters that you did, was that for promoting like foreign movies when they were going to show in Japan? Okay. Yeah. So would you like design the layout of the posters and stuff?
The tie-in promotion. Like for example, when the actors came to Japan, we promote and also the like tie-in event.
Okay. So did you get to meet some of the actors when they came?
Yes.
Who'd you meet?
For example, like Hugh Jackman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And also the Jessica Alba.
Oh,
she was so hot.
I'm sure she was.
Yeah.
Did you actually talk to her? Like you got to
just a little.
Yeah.
Like just small interview.
Okay. So you actually managed to get like words out of your mouth when you talked to her? Because dude, my tongue would be hanging out of my mouth. There'd be no way I could actually communicate. So what made you want to start doing bonsai then, like going from doing the digital design type stuff to doing bonsai professionally? What happened or what made you do that?
One day I went to the aquarium And also there's a small bonsai exhibition beside the aquarium. I just stopped by the exhibition, but I get shocked.
You got shot?
Yeah, I shocked.
Oh, you were shocked?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was like, of course I know bonsai.
Right.
Maybe it's just word. And also the very stereotype image of bonsai.
What's the stereotype here? It's like old man,
old
right?
man. Also the Japanese famous cartoon. It's called Sazae-san.
Okay, yeah.
The three generation live at the same house. It's the traditional Japanese style, something like.
Right.
And the grandfather, his hobby is bonsai.
Okay.
And one day, like kids play baseball, and a ball that came to and hit his bonsai.
Like broke
and
a branch or
he
something.
Get mad, yeah. And that's
the image,
like
a grumpy ass old man.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm shocked. It's like, what? It's bonsai. It's so cool.
Right.
And it's like nuclear shock.
Nuclear shock. Right. Like how old were you when this happened?
Yeah,
when you saw
like
it?
28 or
28.
something.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then I just bought one tree and brought back, and I bought many books, and I was thinking about bonsai all the time.
Right.
All day long.
It's like an obsession. It's like the
yeah,
only thing you can think about.
Give me more.
Right.
Something like that. I couldn't stop.
Mm.
So, and about 7 or 8 years later, it's like, actually, I want to get right to think about bonsai like 24 hours. But just hobby is not enough for me.
Right. Like you wanted to do it professionally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, I have right to think about bonsai 24 hours because it's like I could make money with bonsai.
Right. And then from there you came to Kouka-en, right?
Yes. One day I checked this, I search internet and just like a part-time worker and like kind of like apprentice. It's like.
So on was it on the Kouka-en website you saw this? Oh, okay, yeah, I remember when we put that on there. Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean that was one thing I mentioned in an earlier podcast. Like one of the reasons that I actually got introduced to Fujikawa-san is because the host family I was staying with when I was 16 here, they looked online and Fujikawa-san was the only one that had a website at the time. So I remember when Oyakata Fujikawa-san put that thing on the website saying we're looking for a part-time worker or another apprentice. So I remember that because I was the only one here at that time. And I remember the first day you showed up. I totally remember the first day you showed because it was the second year that I was here.
Yes.
Yeah, the second
year.
Just
during 3 months.
Yeah, during the summer. Yeah.
Just 1 month before you leave.
Yeah, before I went back to the States for a little while. Yeah. So you came in and I remember you brought like a portfolio, a booklet of all of your.
I called in the morning and the afternoon I was there.
And then, and the book it was like all of your drawings, right?
And also my like before and after
of like bonsai that you had made.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the drawings you wanted to show Fujikawa-san like your artistic skills to kind of convince him maybe to take you on as an employee or an apprentice. Like, did you want to do an apprenticeship then, or did you just want to get hired as like a worker?
Not clear. It's like actually I asked Oyakata. It's like there's a way to like touch bonsai, like work here or something, not apprentice.
Like you just wanted to get your hands on,
doesn't matter. It's like
you just wanted to be able to be around the trees and like touch them and and work on them a little bit. Okay. And this was in what year? 2008? No, 2000. It would have been 2009. No, 2010.
9 years ago.
9 years. Yeah. So. Yeah. 9 years ago?
9 years ago, yeah.
Good God, okay, yeah. Yeah, a long time ago, yeah, that's crazy. Time flies, that's amazing. But that was right about the time of the economic recession, right? So like that was one of the problems at the time, right? Because you were working for the company doing digital design, and then the economic recession hit, and then you had opportunity to leave the company and actually do something a little different.
Yeah.
And it just like the timing worked out perfectly, and then you ended up coming to Kouka-en, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So can I hijack in on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the story. From what I've heard of your stories, that you actually the digital design job was like very, very difficult. I mean, and not just difficult as in you kind of didn't like it at the point.
Not interested in.
Yes. So I think that's pretty cool and important that you actually like that you managed to switch from what is essentially seen as a stable job, a very coveted job, especially in Japanese society, where you graduated from a very good university, good marks, and you get work, and then all of a sudden just kind of decide, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna do bonsai.
Yeah.
And that's actually like a lot of people, I think, that maybe would want to do that or something similar to follow their passions. So I mean, I like that angle of this story, that it wasn't just timing, that it was also just your kind of like drive to just do that and quit this one opportunity and go for another one, and like take a big risk, especially in this society, which I think is very hard to do that and frowned upon. And I think you told me that.
Yeah. So of course I think that moment is kind of like the biggest chapter in my life.
And I mean, I think you're saying that a lot of your family and friends, not only did they maybe not understand, but also kind of just maybe like talk down about it, or
Yeah, of course.
they weren't so down with it.
Yeah, so many people tried to convince me, like,
Not to do.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. To me, I really like that angle. Like, I mean, that's kind of, I definitely look to that, and maybe a lot of people would too, and it's definitely inspirational.
Yeah, but I couldn't stop my passion. It's like for bonsai.
That's right.
And of course, like design the work, it's kind of like try to make something beautiful and like create something nice, but it's more like, of course, it's more like business-like. So I thought bonsai has everything I love, like I like. So just like concentrate to make something like beautiful and long-term project. It's like I'm very like I really like that.
Yeah.
Patience. Yeah.
Now, what about your story then with bonsai? Like or where did you start in bonsai? How did you get introduced to it to begin with?
I mean, like Margo-san said, I did know about bonsai. Like, I mean, I knew it existed. It was out there in the world. You've seen it, but you never really think about it until like.
Yeah, it's just like on one of those commercials where you see it like behind some executive in his office or something. Yeah, just in the shadows, kind of.
Very highbrow, and then I look, and I'm like, and I remember one night, and I just did a search. I'm like, okay, well, let's see if there's actually some place that can teach you this. And I searched on Google, whatever, it's bonsai school, and your website came up, your school, the thing that you're running,
Fujikawa-san's, yeah,
International School Bonsai. I think I emailed you maybe, I don't know, 2014 or something, and you got back to me, and you're just like, yeah, just send me $300. And I remember being like, oh, okay.
Wait. It wasn't exactly like that. Come on.
And the website was like, okay, it wasn't the most.
Yeah, it wasn't professional at all back then. No. I was using. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
it was very.
Yeah, thinking back on it, I totally agree with you. It looked like total crap. So.
But it's kind of funny because I guess the people that would send you some money would be interested in coming. Like, the most of that, I guess I could be out $300, so that's not the worst deal. So whatever.
Right. Okay. Let me clarify, because it just sounds really, really strange. But yeah, like we had this school. If you wanted to come and sign up for the school, what we would ask was for a $300 deposit, and then you'd come and then you'd pay the tuition once you got here. So that's the $300.
All cash.
Yes. All cash. Yes, you had to mail it to me in an envelope from Canada.
Yeah, totally.
When did you get a response from it? Like a year later?
Yeah, it was like a year later.
It wasn't. I didn't respond. That it didn't take me that long. Come on.
I think you responded. Okay, like, yeah, no, it's cool, thanks, and like it was okay, good. So I definitely got confirmation, but I think and I think you gave me a timeline. Maybe it was actually, I think maybe maybe a year after, but for probably like more than half a year, like we didn't have communication.
Right.
It's like I just assumed, like, I guess I'm just gonna go to Japan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because we were at that time we were booking students out like a year in advance or so. Yeah. It was packed back to back to back. So we would only let 1 to maybe 3 students at a time, usually 1 or 2 at a time, come to the school. So that's why it was booked out so long in advance.
Yeah. So it was pretty rad. Got to stay in Japan. We traveled around on our days off.
Right, yeah. And then when you finished too, you guys took, was it before or after you did the thing, right? You came to the school and then you went on this trip, but you did a bike trip.
Well, we brought our bikes to Japan from Canada, and then we wanted to bike from Osaka to Tokyo. And we did that after the school, and highly recommend it. It's actually...
That's a long ass way to go, though. Do you remember how many kilometers or miles it was?
I think it's like 660 kilometers because we actually went through the mountains. There's essentially 2 routes you can take. You can go along the coast, which is easier, and I think a lot of city. But we went through the mountains, which is harder, but more scenic. And, if you just take 50 kilometers a day and just don't rush, anyone can do it.
Right.
It's such a beautiful way to see Japan because, staying in Osaka is... You think, oh my God, this country is just all city and it's so it's like the future. But you actually go maybe like an hour out and it's the countryside's just countryside.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then you did the program, and then you went back to Canada, and then Fujikawa-san. Well, we had other apprentices that had come through the nursery, and I think we actually had a couple of other apprentices while you were here too, right? Or was it just it was just Maeoka-san? Okay, yeah. So I was on the road. I know I met you during that period a little bit, but I was on the road then. So it was basically just you and Maeoka-san and your girlfriend too. Yeah. But we had apprentices before that, and then because I decided right after you guys left that I was going to move back to the States, Fujikawa-san wanted to find another apprentice. So you guys went back to Canada, and then Fujikawa-san asked me to contact you about coming back to do an actual apprenticeship here. So was that something you had kind of hinted at wanting to do while you were here during the study program, or was this just like out of the blue?
Definitely not out of the blue, for sure. Actually, I actually do remember that the email was sent on Christmas, which is kind of funny, December 25th. Yeah. And it came at a really good time where I was looking to switch jobs and just kind of thinking about other options. Actually, I remember at the time thinking there's this crazy chef guy that comes into Kouka-en, Yanai-san. Yeah. And I remember he was talking about, maybe I'll get you to be like a cooking deshi. Right?
Well, that's actually a pretty good impression. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought about that. I mean, I didn't know. I later heard that would be a terrible idea, but I was thinking about, maybe I'll email Maeoka-san. Like, can you maybe get in touch with them and see what happens? And then literally 2 weeks after, I got an email from you guys, and me and Paloma, which is my girlfriend, we thought about it, and she wanted to do a holiday working visa and live in Japan, and she has a tie to culture because her stepmom's Japanese and her stepbrother's Japanese, and and we just came.
Yeah, I don't know. It just worked out. Yeah. Sometimes things just work out like that,
We didn't overthink it too much. I mean, I thought about it, but it was hard to say no. Basically, I had to find a reason to say no. You get opportunities, and that's kind of one of the things about it that, I mean, I could have convinced myself not to go.
Right.
But.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
why not?
Yeah. It's a different kind of story too, because usually people come out from the other end, like they're actively searching for an apprenticeship. It's difficult to find, but the fact that you had come here and done the study program, it was almost like doing a trial period. Basically, if you're coming from overseas, typically you do a trial period at nursery, and then if the oyakata likes you, they'll take you on as an apprentice. So you had essentially done that, but it was from a different perspective. So I think it was Fujikawa-san liked your personality, and like he likes people who are quiet and who kind of keep to themselves. A little bit introverted, but who work hard, and you sort of fit that bill. So I think that's why, he wanted to have you back at the nursery. So
well, he's definitely lucky. I don't really know too much Japanese yet. So maybe that would change.
Dude, I'm impressed though. Like, I mean, you've only been here since last May. It's January now, so it's at like 8 months or so. But you've actually picked up a really good amount of Japanese in that short period of time. So that's impressive. Like, you can at least understand what you're being told.
Definitely more than. Definitely understand more than I can speak.
Right. Yeah. And that's a normal part of the process too. Like, you understand first, and then eventually you start to feel comfortable kind of regurgitating that and then responding on your own. So, but I'm impressed. Like 8 months, and you can understand as much as you do.
Of course, I don't feel like I know anything. So, but yeah, I mean a little bit. I'm more than I thought I would. What do we eat for dinner?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Look at that. Hey, you could be a translator. You're fine. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. I think your Japanese is better than mine. What do you think, Maeoka-san?
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, Bjorn's Japanese suck.
You better be careful, Maeoka-san. I'm gonna pull the senpai card.
That is your senpai,
yeah, I'm gonna pull the senpai card out.
Senpai.
Okay, so Maeoka-san, you've been here at the nursery for basically 9 years, but typically an apprenticeship in Japan is 5 years, right? So you did the normal 5-year apprenticeship. It was a little longer than that though, right? And then you graduated, right? And then you've been working at the nursery for the last 3.5 years as a professional, right? So has there been any difference between Deshi life and professional life, or has it all felt kind of similar all the way through? Like, has anything shifted?
For me, it's like just kept working at Kouka-en, but last few years I went abroad.
Like overseas to teach? Yeah. Okay.
So
where have you been going?
Yeah, Italy, mainly Europe.
Mainly Europe. Okay. Yeah, so you've been to Italy. You go to Italy at least once a year, right? Now, like once or twice a year.
Yes, twice. The Milan, Sicily, so northern, south.
Okay, yeah,
it's quite different.
Right, yeah. Milan is like the sort of the art capital, I guess, right? The fashion center of Italy.
And maybe the people and also climate
is a little different.
Big difference. I think.
Okay, have you noticed any major differences in the way that people do bonsai in Italy versus Japan? Or when you go over there to teach, do they want to know how to create bonsai like is created in Japan, or do they talk about like, I want to make an Italian style bonsai? Does anybody ever say that, or is it always like, because they're hiring you to come all the way over from Japan to teach them. So I assume that they want you to teach them how, sort of how bonsai is done in Japan, but also your personal take on bonsai, like your personal approach to it. But do they ever talk about learning that and then changing that somehow, or reflecting like their Italian culture into bonsai? Like, do they ever say anything like that?
Yeah, it's like it's very logical things. Like, but if people try to copy Japanese style, also like the trees have something like Italian style, like unconsciously, because the art mind is slightly different, I think.
Sure.
And also the species, some species like we don't have.
Right.
Like, so.
What are you talking about? Like Pinus sylvestris, like the Scots pine, and like the olives, things like that. Yeah.
So, and also I could learn from them. It's like their what character.
Right.
Yeah, something like. But I could tell them like generally things like for styling.
Right, like your approach to it, like how you bring the branch down, like the technical side of stuff, right? Like how to apply raffia, how to apply wire, because all of that is. I mean, it's basically technical. It's all essentially physics.
But also I have to learn like in the nature how they look, something like.
What do you mean, like in nature how they look like? Trees look different in Italy than they do in Japan, you mean?
It's for example, the olives in the nature in Spain, like in Italy, it's like how they look.
Sure, yeah.
In the nature.
Right,
so
but
I'm curious that.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you mentioned olives, there's no there's no parallel to an olive in Japan, right? So if, you've got olives in Italy or olives in Spain. There is no olive in Japan to compare that to, right? But there is like a Pinus sylvestris, a Scots pine in Italy, and you've got red pine in Japan or white pine in Japan. So those are much more similar. So I would imagine that when you work on pines over there, what you teach about how to style a pine is much more easily absorbed, understood, and then recreated there than you talking about, say, for example, kangumi here, which is, Eleagnus, which is basically, it's a broadleaf evergreen. So it's similar to an olive, similar a little bit, right? It keeps the leaves, but the olive obviously is different. It's a completely different species than an Eleagnus. So, translating from that to the other is probably more difficult. Do you think? Does that make sense? Yeah, I would assume it would be easier to translate between species where there's a common genus, like Pinus and Pinus. Pinus sylvestris, Pinus densiflora, they're both pines. They both grow essentially the same way. So I would assume that, that translates much more easily. Did you find that was the case?
Yes, so like as bonsai, the aesthetics, like for bonsai, it's like the ultimate purpose is kind of like very similar. It's kind of
ultimate
bonsai
purpose,
is kind of like ideal.
Right.
So people go to nature like to get hint
Right.
for bonsai.
Sure.
But they already choose like, oh, this tree looks like bonsai.
Right.
It's not like
it's not art imitating life. It's almost it's the opposite way.
It's like kind of like ideal.
Right. They already have
as
this image in their
bonsai,
head.
something like
I'm sure that's influenced by seeing, Japanese bonsai online on the internet or in books. They see that and they assume that's what the ideal is, and then they go in nature and they say, well, that matches my
It's very hard to put into words. Trees in nature sometimes looks very unnatural. It's like
right, of course.
Yeah, and many trees in for example, forest, they influence each other. It's not just one single tree.
Right.
So, it's very hard to put into word. But
a lot of the bonsai that we have in the nursery, they could almost be on the covers of fantasy books or in movies. Kind of just this.
Right. You would never see that thing in nature
like a
necessarily.
Of a tree.
Right.
And it's kind of the most beautiful it can be, but it's actually what makes it bonsai, in my opinion. That if you just put this raggedy tree from the forest in the bonsai pot, you would just probably call that a bad bonsai.
Right.
But a good bonsai looks like almost an unnatural tree, which to me, which is actually
it's like
cool.
It's like teetering on the line of you don't want it to look contrived and fake necessarily. You still want some element of naturalness to it, but at the same time, you would never see that final product in nature. You would never see that.
But that's what makes it, because like, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. People touched bonsai.
Of course. It's a very hands-on thing. Yeah.
There's a reason you guys have jobs. It's because people pay you to work it.
Please, for all of you out there listening, please keep paying us to do this. So, I mean, you said you didn't have very much experience in Canada before you came here in terms of access or exposure to bonsai, but did you have at least some there? And if so, what did you notice in coming here that was different from what you'd seen in Canada, or just in the West in general?
So I guess my experience is limited, but I will say that after the workshop, when I came back to Canada, basically hiking, because I actually enjoy hiking. Currently I live in Vancouver, in British Columbia, Canada.
Currently you live in Osaka, but
that's right.
You forgot where you were.
Good point. But so the last place I lived in was in Vancouver, and you do a lot of hiking there, and basically bonsai in a way changes the way you hike, because now you're kind of just always looking around for trees, like, oh, that could be a good tree. So after the workshop, I ended up buying a couple small trees from saplings from this bonsai vendor that actually ended up going out of business. Actually, it was a going out of business sale, which bad sign. But and then also collected like a small little tree on my hike. So I mean, as far as the differences go, I don't really know. I'm sure we have different species, but I definitely picked up trees after the workshop. So definitely got into it after. And at the same time before that, I was also I like just plants as a hobby is a thing of mine. So I had some terrariums I like going and some aquariums full of plants and stuff like that. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So you started your apprenticeship about 8 months ago. What, I mean, obviously the experience has been different than what you experienced as a short-term student here, because when you came for that, you were basically, you know, I mean, you were paying to come and study here. So you're like a client, like a customer. So, you know, going from that to actually doing an apprenticeship, was it what you expected, or did it, you know, completely change your perspective on Japan? Like what's happened since you've been here?
Yeah, I definitely I had a perspective of it's gonna be really difficult and all the time work, and it's just gonna be really hard. That's kind of the only thing that I thought, and well, it's definitely that. It's definitely a lot of work, and it really is difficult. And you know,
is it more of like a mental marathon or a physical marathon?
Yeah,
or is it
it's definitely more mental.
More mental, yeah.
For sure, mental.
Yeah.
Only, I mean, no. Sometimes you lift really heavy trees, and kind of is definitely physical. But it's mostly mental. That's right. As far as expectations go, and for Japan, I didn't come with too many. I tried to just kind of not think about it. I mean, it's kind of, if I overthink it, maybe I would kind of, you know, maybe not come or something.
So has it been hard to adjust to the culture here? Not in the bonsai world, but I'm talking about like Japanese culture at large.
At first it was. At first, it wasn't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're probably in the honeymoon phase at
yes,
that point.
That's
like,
right.
Everything
that's
was
right.
new. Everything
exactly.
was cool.
Yeah,
all the food tastes amazing.
Yes.
You know, like the sights, the smells, everything is just awesome at that point.
For sure. And then later, you stay here a little bit longer, and then you start to feel like a local. I mean, like the area we live in, Ishibashi, is, you know, I just feel like this is my neighborhood now.
Right.
But you still somehow get these like sometimes weird looks.
Right. Yeah. You're always the outsider.
You're always the outsider, but you know, I mean, that's true, and obviously, look different than most people here, and you know, you feel that, but then it kind of annoys you a little bit,
right?
Because it's my neighborhood,
right? Exactly.
I feel like I belong. I don't feel like I don't. So
sure. Yeah, it's kind of it's a weird situation. Like even now for me, like coming back, I've been gone now for 8 months because I left 2 days after you got here last May. But like now that I'm back, I you know, my son said my Japanese sucks. It's not very good, but
no, it's really
it's good enough. It's good enough to get around.
Your Japanese is very good.
Yeah. You're only saying that because I punched you while Thomas was talking. So no. But the thing is, like, you know, I've been gone for a while, and I sort of forgot about certain elements of living here. Now that I'm back, I go out and I'll go to a restaurant with my wife. We'll order some food, and I'll order the food, and I'll say it. I know it's perfect Japanese. I know it's perfect. Intonation is fine. There's no mistakes. But the waiter will look at me like, "What the hell did you just say?" And then they'll try to talk to me in English like they didn't understand me, and their English is so bad I can't understand what they're saying. And then I'll repeat myself in perfect Japanese, and you have this weird back and forth, and it's really frustrating because I think they assume right from the start you're not going to be able to speak. True. You know, and then mentally they just, even though you're saying it to them in perfect Japanese, it just doesn't compute in their head. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like this is my neighborhood, you know.
But you also has Gaijin power in Japan.
Oh, Gaijin! Wait. Can you give us a quick explanation of what Gaijin power is, Maeoka?
Gaijin power is like
Wait. First off, what is Gaijin?
Gaijin, foreigners.
Foreigners, okay. So foreigner power.
Foreigner power.
All right, what is that?
It's very typical Japanese. Like, they are very kind for foreigners.
Like
sometimes too much.
Very forgiving, right? Like
forgiving.
Yeah, like if I do something stupid on the street, you know, they won't call me out on it.
It's very Japanese because we live in an island,
right?
And we believe Japanese people living in Japan should be Japanese. The foreigners like kind of special for us.
Like rare.
So should be kind.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have power. When you got into trouble, it's like
yeah.
Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Like, it's been 8 months, and now I'm learning about this gaijin power.
Did you feel that?
Did I feel that? Not yet. I mean, I got stopped by a cop 2 days ago because.
Oh, you did? Did they profile you?
Not.
They used to profile me all the time. I get stopped like maybe twice a month. My first year I was here because they assumed that I stole my bike that I was riding on.
I think you guys realize that you guys have that power. So you guys used to that power, I think.
Oh, you think we take advantage of it?
Yeah, I think so.
What?
It's like, oh, it's the best moment to use gaijin power. You guys know that.
Yeah. Well, talking about the cops stopping you. I had a friend who was from France. You know, he was a Caucasian dude, white dude. He got pulled over by the cops on his bike, and it was his bike. He'd done nothing wrong, but they just stopped him and were profiling him and were checking the number. Because when you buy a bike here, you have to register the serial number with the company that you buy it from, and then they register that on like this national registry. So he knew that it was registered just fine, and he was sick of getting pulled over by the cops. So he was a little inebriated at the time. So he thought, you know what? I'm gonna make a run for it. So he got up, they had sat him down on the floor and they'd set his bike off to the side while they were checking the number, and he was like, screw this. I'm gonna grab my bike and I'm gonna run. So he gets up, jumps on his bike and takes off. But what he didn't realize is, the cops here, they don't carry guns, but they all know martial arts.
Yeah.
So this cop flew through the air, punched him in the face, knocked him off the bike, and as soon as the guy fell and hit the ground, like typical Japanese style, the cop bowed and apologized for having punched him in the face.
It's almost worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the story afterwards was worth the whole ordeal. So.
But see, he kind of broke the law in a way.
He did. Oh yeah, it was completely illegal to do that. Yeah.
I mean, I guess just to clarify, I did supposedly broke the law. I mean, I didn't know the law existed, but it was doubling up on a bike.
Oh, riding two people on it?
You can't do that. Except I've seen it everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone does it. But
right.
Yeah, we got. I mean, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just. It's the only way to get around.
But it was super kind and polite, and then we got this notice that maybe a police officer will come to your door and tell you about the neighborhood and welcome you to the neighborhood. That's pretty nice. That definitely does not happen in Canada.
No.
There's nobody welcoming you.
No. Same in the States. Yeah. It doesn't happen there either. Yeah. Yeah. So there are good things and bad things about it, I guess. But yeah, like the first summer I was here, I would get stopped at least twice a month on my bike, and it was always the same cops, and they knew who I was, and I was always riding the same damn bike. They would drive by me going the opposite way, and then they turn their lights on and come back and pick me up and then check my number on my bike. So I don't know if it was like a quota thing.
Maybe you were just looking really sketchy.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Maybe it's you, not them.
Right, yeah. That might be what it was. All right. Okay. So Maeoka-san has a pretty cool announcement to make. So you've been at the nursery now for 9 years. Right, you did your apprenticeship, and you worked there for several years. But now that you're traveling around a little bit, you're getting outside of Japan some. You have decided to dokuritsu suru, which translates to become independent. Right. Yeah. So you are right now working on what? What are you planning on doing?
Oh, yeah, I already got a place.
Right, it's a new house, right?
On nursery, something like nursery.
Right. All right. And you got this place. What's the name of the town that it's in? It's in Osaka, but what's
Yes, the town is called. Is it in Osaka? Oh no.
Oh, it's not.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's not Osaka?
Oh my god. It's just 20 meters away from Osaka. It's like my neighbors is in Osaka, but I'm not.
Oh, your place technically isn't
Hyogo
Osaka.
Prefecture.
Oh, it's Hyogo Prefecture. Okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so Hyogo Prefecture is the same prefecture that Kobe is in, right? The city of Kobe.
Yes.
Right, but
Kobe
it borders.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but it borders Osaka Prefecture.
Yeah, border. Yeah, just right? 20 meters away from.
Oh, 20 meters.
Just 20 meters.
20 meters.
Actually, my neighbor is
so
still
you're literally right over the border then.
Just 20 meters.
You switch all the paperwork and everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah, everything.
Oh, what a pain in the ass.
Yeah, fucking pain in the ass.
So you've got this place now, right? And the house, you show me pictures. I haven't been to visit, but the photos of the inside of the house are gorgeous. Like it's very traditional Japanese.
Yes.
Like is the whole thing tatami floors?
It's hard to find out. The whole house is not just traditional Japanese.
Oh, it's like a mix.
Mix.
Okay. But you do have
shitty Western style,
and also
yeah. And also the Japanese part is like quite good.
It's really nice, yeah, because you've got at least one tokonoma, right? One alcove.
Yes, and I want to build another one actually.
Or you're gonna actually add on
the bigger
to it
one.
then. A bigger one, okay.
Yeah, to make the big 3-point display or something.
Okay, right. So you've got this. It's very traditional, very beautiful. You know, the walls have the. I don't know. It's wallpaper, right? But it's like it's a very traditional looking wallpaper. It's made to look like the old timey walls, right? Like the walls that are made out of dirt.
That is scroll.
It's a scroll.
I put.
No. I'm talking about the
like
wall itself.
Wall,
like the actual cupboard.
That is pine.
It's
like a window. It's a shoji window.
Are you talking about in the
It's
tokonoma?
a curved pine on the shoji.
No. I'm talking about like the actual, like the wall just in the room. The wall itself is like this, right? Like the room we're sitting in here, right? It's similar to this, like very traditional, like almost like a sandpaper kind of look to it, right?
Yes.
Right. So you get that look, and then you've got the framing with the wood all around, and then you've got the tokonoma and the shoji screens and the tatami floor, like the whole 9 yards, right?
And engawa.
Engawa. What is engawa?
Not direct. Tokonoma and then small aisle and then window.
Okay. So it's a mix then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also the shoji, the Japanese slide door, should have yukimi shoji.
So you can just lift the bottom up, right, and see.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
garden.
all right. So just to clarify, the shoji screens or the shoji doors are like the typical traditional doors. It's like the rice paper with the slats of wood that run through it. And then what do you call it? The
yukimi shoji.
To
see snow.
To see the snow, right? Yeah. So the bottom half of the shoji doors you can actually raise up to see the snow on the ground outside. That's so freaking cool. That is awesome.
Outside, there's a small, how do you call that? The ike.
Ike, like a pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a small pond.
Bridge.
Okay.
You can see.
Yeah, so when you raise it up, you can see that stuff outside. That's incredible. So I mean, the garden right now, you have a garden that's already built there, and then you've got an open sort of flat area of land, and then you've got a stair-stepped area of land too, right? So right now, what you're working on is cleaning up that whole area.
Yes.
You're going to put gravel down and build benches, and then actually start a nursery there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the plan then with the nursery?
What's the plan? I want to have my own class, bonsai school.
Okay, like an international type school where students from overseas come in.
And also, I have space, rooms to stay for students.
Oh, like actually in the house?
Yeah, in the house.
Okay. So when you eventually open your school, do you have any idea when you're going to open the school?
When?
Yeah.
Something like that.
What's the plan? Like next year, maybe?
Yeah, I hope next year.
Next year, so maybe 2019, probably. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, you'll open the school. You'll have students come in. They'll study. It'll be more of like a long-term thing, right? Like 2 weeks to 3 a month. Something like that. Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
Okay, and then the students can stay at the house, right?
Can stay.
That's awesome, dude. So you come in. As a student, you study with Maeoka-san. You stay on the property at the garden, basically like an apprentice, sort of.
Oh,
I mean, it's that.
Not that strict.
Well, yeah, okay, not that strict, yeah. But I'm saying like the lifestyle is similar, right? Like you actually like sumikomi. You live in the nursery.
Yeah, if they want.
Okay, so you'll have other options available.
Yes.
Okay.
If they go if they want stay hotel and trip, go somewhere.
Okay, right,
okay.
Right. So it'll be pretty relaxed, but they'll be able to come in and then study with you at the school. That's awesome.
Yeah, because my new place is kind of like top of on the hills.
Like it's on like a mountainside, right?
Yeah.
The views are incredible. Yeah, I mean I haven't been there obviously, but the pictures you showed me.
Actually, to live is hard.
Right.
Every day, but for visitors,
right.
Maybe it's good.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that you say it's hard now, but that's because every day you're biking from that house all the way to Kouka-en, and then you're biking all the way back. Yeah. That is some tough stuff right there.
Yeah.
So you just got this place recently, right? In the last
month.
Last month.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like a brand new project.
Yes.
Right, but how much longer are you planning to stay at Kouka-en then before you dokuritsu, before you go independent. You're going to stay until like May or so of this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that is my plan.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of like 3 months later.
Okay. But I mean, you'll still do a little bit of work with the nursery, obviously, during busy times of the year, right? Yeah, just to help out a little bit. And then, you build your nursery, and then eventually the focus will be, I mean, your focus when you start the nursery, start your nursery, will be mostly teaching. Is that right?
Mostly teaching. Of course, I want to buy trees and
build them and sell them. Right.
Build and style. And also I want to put like my own kiln to burn pots or
your own kiln.
Like,
that's right. Yeah,
students want to make some pots.
That's right. Yeah, because you're a badass potter, dude. Like you make some kick-ass pots. So yeah. For those of you who haven't seen Maeoka-san's work, I mean, you don't post most of your work online, and I don't know why. I don't know why you don't post your photos of your pots online, because it is some killer work. But yeah, for those of you guys who are listening right now to the podcast, if you've never seen Maeoka-san's pots, you got to go to his Facebook page and check it out, because it's absolutely incredible.
Actually, one of the big deciding reasons why I came to Kouka-en for the apprenticeship was to work with Maeoka-san.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's just definitely straight up the truth.
Well, yeah, because when you were here studying during that first period, Maeoka-san was basically your teacher on a daily basis, right? Yeah.
And I mean, I think we kind of developed like a friendship, and kind of like it was just super comfortable and super nice. And when I got, the email to come, that was definitely a huge deciding factor. So, I mean, if anyone is thinking about doing something like this 3-week course, even if you don't get into bonsai after or anything like that, just staying in Japan for 3 weeks and like with Maeoka-san and in that setting is so dope.
Yeah,
it's fun. And
that's what I always tell people. Like, if I mean, most people that want to come to Japan to study bonsai, they're really interested in bonsai. So if you've never been to Japan, even just coming, like you said, for a couple week period, it'll completely change your perspective on bonsai art, like the quality level here, to see it in a book and then to see it in person. Yeah, it's completely different. It'll absolutely blow your mind. Then of course to come study with Maeoka-san is an even bigger privilege, I think. So,
he is of knowledge.
And I only say that because Maeoka-san's going to give me 20% of all of his profits, right?
True oyakata.
That's right. That's right. I'm using my gaijin power and my senpai power right now.
Good student.
So, speaking of your salary here, I mean, it's normal for apprentices all over Japan, but just to clarify, like what do you get as an apprentice working at Kouka-en? What does Oyakata Fujikawa-san pay for, and then like what do you get per month?
You get essentially 50,000 yen, which is equivalent to almost $500, and you get an apartment, essentially accommodation, and is that it? Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's all you get. No electricity. Yeah, no cell phone, even though he really wanted me to get a cell phone pretty fast, which is kind of annoying.
So you pay for the cell phone out of pocket, you pay for the electricity out of pocket,
and internet, and health, and
health insurance. Well, you're from Canada, so in terms of cost, is the health insurance here about the same, or I mean, what have you noticed? Because like in the States, it's insane. When I was here in Japan, for my wife and myself, we would pay, what was it, $50 a month for the two of us for health insurance.
Yeah.
5,000 yen, 5,000 yen a month.
God, really?
Yeah, 5,000 yen a month for the two of us, which is basically, it's like $45-50 a month. And then if you go to the doctor here, you only have to pay 30% of whatever the cost is there. But there are policies, like laws in effect, that basically limit the amount that the hospitals can charge you for healthcare. So the actual cost of the healthcare itself is not very expensive. So even though you're paying 30% of that cost, the total cost is really cheap. So like, for example, when I basically chainsawed my pointer finger, and destroyed my tendon, they reattached my tendon. They gave me 2 weeks of antibiotics, and it cost me $70. In the States, to get that done, that would have been thousands and thousands of dollars. So now that I'm back in the States, we moved back last year, we pay, for the two of us, since I'm a sole proprietor, I own my own business, we pay $700 a month for insurance, and then if I have to go to the doctor, I still have to pay a massive premium, like up front. So like I think it's like $6,000 or $7,000 of the first amount of cost I have to pay out of pocket. Whereas here, like this that I cut my finger off, it was nothing. It's crazy. But I mean, Canada is more similar to Japan, I think, healthcare wise than the States.
Mostly, it's taken out of your income taxes. It's rolled into one, but actually, each province is differently. So. It's done that, but also where I was in British Columbia, you also pay another premium on top of it, and it all depends on how much money you make.
Okay, it's based on the salary.
So
here it's based on your salary too. Yeah, I should say that the reason that my wife and our insurance was so cheap here was because I wasn't making money in Japan.
Yeah.
I was, as an apprentice, you're not really, you're below the poverty line, so you're not making money enough to pay a high amount, and so that's why our insurance was so low here. We were basically listed as zero income in Japan. So yeah, that was part of it. That was part of the reason why our insurance was so cheap here on a monthly basis. But even if we had lived here and I'd been paying taxes on the money I'd made overseas and brought back here, it still would have been exponentially cheaper than what we would pay in the States. And there would be no, it's not a premium. I can't think of the deductible.
That's right.
Deductible. There's no deductible here. Yeah. Right. So it's crazy to me how cheap it is here. But, and the thing is, in the States, everybody talks about, if you live in a place like anywhere else in the world where health insurance is so cheap, it's because the taxes are so high. But that's not true either, because the taxes here in Japan are the same as they are in the States. You're looking at paying about 35%. You don't think so, Maeoka-san? It's the same, right? Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, so you're looking at paying, 25 to 35% of your income in taxes. It's normal here, and that's exactly the same in the States. It's just that the tax money is reallocated differently here than it is in the States to different things. So more of that goes towards health coverage here than it does in the States, and that's why it's cheaper here. So, I mean, there's good things and bad things about it, but that's one thing that going back to the States last year, I was totally not expecting, completely surprised by, just unbelievably expensive.
The other thing, I mean, one last thing to it is that actually dental is covered in the health plan, and that is, as far as like the other taxes, that's a huge thing we don't have in Canada. We do not have dental covered as part. How many
times did you go?
Well, I think it's already been 11 times.
To what? To the dentist?
Yeah.
To the dentist?
Yes. For sure. I got 3
in 8 months.
Yes. I got a root canal. I got a crown.
Holy crap!
I got like 3 cavities.
Dude, you need to brush your teeth better.
No, I just it's one of my weaknesses, my teeth.
But same for me.
But I mean, like, it actually, basic dental is very important. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting here, like you talk about the dental being so cheap.
Yes.
One thing you don't have here in Japan is orthodontics, like where you get braces, right? To fix your teeth to make them straight. Right? Why is that?
Oh my.
Is it is there like a cultural reason?
Yeah, cultural reason is like looks cute.
Yeah, because you can even it's weird because a lot of the girls in Japan, like younger girls, they want to have, we call it a snaggle tooth in the States, but it's called
yaeba. Yeah.
Right, so it's basically like your, I don't know what your canine tooth, like is this one, right? The pointy tooth?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Like if you don't get braces, that tooth will sometimes come out, right? And stick further out. So, normally in the States, it's not a very nice word, but they call it a snaggle tooth. But here it's viewed as cute, right? So sometimes girls will actually get a surgery to make a snaggle tooth, right? Like they won't have it naturally, but they'll get a nanka seike suru yaro, right? Like they'll get plastic surgery, right? To move that tooth out to make it look more like a snaggle tooth because they think it looks cute, right?
Oh my God, yeah,
it's true, right?
But it's true.
That's so bizarre. Yeah, it's really strange because everybody in the States wants perfectly straight teeth. Like I had braces, right? I had braces on the top and the bottom. And, like that's just the normal desire in the States is to have perfectly straight teeth. But here, like, it's very different, completely different. Why is that? Is it like part of your personality, they think, or?
I don't know, actually. It's like people don't care about that.
About having straight teeth?
No.
They don't care?
No, they don't care.
it's just not something that, you know, it's not like a normal part of like.
Just don't care.
But okay,
like,
you say that, but like all of the famous actresses or actors, all of them, they all have straight teeth.
Yeah.
They've all got their teeth fixed. But is that because they're trying to sell overseas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in recent, I think.
Oh, it's more recent.
But it's still really behind.
Okay.
I don't know it's behind or not, but it's our culture, and but people don't care about that. It's
About the
like
teeth. Yeah.
About the teeth. It's just
Right.
it's
Is there anything related to wabi sabi?
oh, not perfect.
Yeah, it's not perfect. Is that like kintsugi of the mouth? Is that what it is? You know, like okay. So kintsugi is basically where like if you get a broken pot, you fix it with gold, right?
With
so
gold,
like there's beauty,
means,
in the messed up stuff, you know, like something is broken and you don't necessarily fix it, like you highlight the fact that
when
it's
something broken and you buy new one, it's easy.
Right.
We try to keep that.
Right. You try to keep the old, right? You try to preserve it.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Does that have any relation to the teeth? Like this is the natural.
Don't
like
think
no, okay.
So I don't want.
To
It's like if you have the silver and the gold.
Oh, I guess yeah. I mean, you know, I've never seen a single Japanese person with a grill. So, do you know what a grill is,
I think
Maeoka-san?
it's changing little by little.
Okay. Do you know what a grill is?
Grill?
A grill? You know, like, have you seen some of the rappers in the States?
You did that.
Oh,
like
yeah, I did that.
The foil.
Yeah, I put aluminum foil on my teeth. Yeah, so we made a video a few years back. It was like a rap parody video.
What?
Yeah, my wife was like, what the hell is this?
So what the hell is this?
Yeah, but we made a rap parody video at the nursery.
Yeah.
And for my rap scene, I put aluminum foil on my teeth and rapped in the video. So that's that is what a grill is, Maeoka-san. I'm surprised you don't see that more in Japan.
That's one part we did at Kouka-en.
That's right. That's because bonsai is supposed to be fun. Like, you know,
supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun. It should be fun. It should be, I mean, everybody gets into bonsai because it's a hobby and they love it. They're passionate about it. It's like you said, all you could think about was bonsai. Once you got into it, that's all you wanted to do. That's all you could think about. So it should be fun. Even though doing an apprenticeship, it sucks ass. Like it's not enjoyable, but at the baseline of it, you know, the reason that you're here to do it is because you love what you do. You love working on the trees, and that really is all that matters, despite all the crap that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's like positive thinking. It's like, yeah, of course. When I see the tree, it's like when I do workshop, like I want to try to find something good in the tree, not negative part.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, when you're designing a tree, you identify and find the negative parts, and then you try to hide them. But the main goal is to show off the good points,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think an apprenticeship is like that too. You know, like there's all this crap that you have to go through, and it's not that you're looking at the end of at the light at the end of the tunnel to try to get out of it. It's that like the whole process of it, the totality of it. Most of it is good because you love what you do, you know, like that's the main thing.
So you're going to open up your school,
right?
Or your nursery and perhaps school. Are you going to eventually try to have workers, or are you going to try to bring in the Japanese apprentice kind of attitude towards it? I mean, I don't think you can legally do an apprenticeship in America.
Well, yeah,
I mean, I don't know, but what are you going to bring to it from your experience?
Sure, yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I get emails almost every week from people who are asking to be my apprentice. And you know, and I'm honored that people are, you know, that people like my work enough that they want to study with me like that. I have mixed feelings about doing that at this stage because I mean I'm still young myself. I'm only 31 at this point. And for those who don't know, Maeoka-san looks like he's 15, but he's how old are you now, Maeoka-san? How old are you now? I do this to him all the time. How old are you now?
I'll be 46.
That's crazy.
This year.
That's crazy. Have you started shaving yet? Yeah. What?
3 days.
Oh, 3 days ago? That was the first time you shaved? Yeah.
When we bicycle together, he's just leagues ahead all the time, anyways.
Right. Yeah. Dude's got the stamina of a 20-something-year-old. It's crazy. Yeah. You must be drinking some good water.
It's because
or
maybe we're bicycling to beer is usually.
Okay. To go get beer. Okay. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, like I have mixed feelings about having apprentices right now because of my age and because we don't even have the nursery built yet. So, I don't necessarily want to do that. The other thing too is, I mean, I was born and raised in the States, so culturally, I'm American and deeply American. But I'm 31 at this point. I spent about a decade here, so I spent almost a third of my entire life in Japan. So a lot of the elements here obviously have influenced the way I interact with people in general, and more specifically, the way I interact with people in the bonsai community. And even more deeply, I think it would impact the way that I interact with people who might be my apprentice. Yeah. And I don't know how taking on an apprentice, because everybody that's contacted me has been a Western person, so either from Europe or from the States. I don't know how my attitude now would work with taking on someone from the West, because they wouldn't have had that cultural experience here in Japan. Like for example, you come over here and you're totally immersed in the culture. So you're from the West. I mean, you're born in Poland, raised in Canada. So you're Western by all standards, but you're here in Japan and you fully immersed yourself in it. If someone were to come to my nursery and study with me as an apprentice, there's a mix of American culture and Japanese culture, but the way I would treat that apprentice would be very Japanese. And probably not on purpose. It's just the way it would manifest in my interaction. Yeah. And I think because that person is not in an entirely immersive Japanese cultural experience, that it would come across as either weird or super mean, or that it just wouldn't translate all the way. So that's my main concern.
A little bit confusing.
Yeah, like a little confusing, you know?
That makes
sense.
So
I don't know how well something like that would work. And it's not that I would be a total ass to the apprentice necessarily. It's just that there are certain elements of doing an apprenticeship in Japan that have influenced me. And I've always said this about other people that have studied here long-term from overseas. Your personality as a bonsai professional, once you finish your apprenticeship, almost always reflects your teacher's personality. So to a large degree, the way that Fujikawa-san's approach to us has been was influenced by his teacher, Saburo Kato, to some degree. If you were to study at any other nursery in Japan, your personality would quite likely reflect the way that your teacher treated you. So there's good things and bad things about that, but in all of those cases, it's all in a Japanese context. So I don't know how well that would translate to a Western context in the States. From someone coming from a Western context to that Western context with Japanese influences in it. I just don't know how that would work.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
Maybe people will want that. I mean,
maybe, maybe they will, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe they will. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think, Maeoka-san?
So I wanted to ask you guys, I'm a Japanese. How it's hard to feel like the bonsai Japanese approach. What's the difference? It's like, how do you feel? Like,
how do I feel about the Japanese approach to bonsai?
Yeah,
like compared to the approach in the States, you mean, or just like,
or except Japan,
outside of Japan?
Like, outside of Japan.
I don't know. Like, I think it's hard to ask. It's hard to ask me because I've been here so long. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Thomas is better to ask it to, because I've been here so long, and I don't know. To me, I always viewed Japanese bonsai as like the pinnacle, like the top, like the quality level and the general approach.
How could we get that?
What's that?
How could we get that?
How do you get to that? Yeah. Like I talked about it actually in the last podcast I did about some of the cultural reasons why I think that's the case. Maybe you can tell me if you think this is true or not. But to me, it seems like, Japan is much more long-term oriented, right? So, if you work in a company here, or, it doesn't matter what you do, everybody here tends to be much more long-term oriented. So, if you work in a company and you're building a product and the product is not making profit every quarter, that's not a problem because you're thinking maybe 3, 5, 8 years out, and you say, okay, this product will make money 8 years from now, so we're going to keep working on it. In the States, if it's not making profit immediately, within a quarter or two, it's gone. You move it out and you move on to the next thing. So I think there's an element of long-term orientation that makes bonsai the way it is here, because people think about, okay, if I cut this branch in 8 years, it's going to look like this. Or if I do this technique every year for 15 years, the tree's going to look like this, right? What do you think?
Yeah, nowadays it's actually harder. I think people want diamond immediately,
Like instant gratification.
Yeah.
But that I think a lot of that has to do with the internet and social media.
When I started bonsai, it's like a guy said it will be really nice after 10 years or something.
Right.
Oh my God, it's 10 years later, but
Right.
10 years, like really fast. It's just 10 years.
Yeah, it just zips by.
Yeah, 10 years. I feel like now if I want something, I just pay money and then
Then you get what you want.
yeah,
Right.
that's patience.
Yeah, but you're right. Even in bonsai too, here though, if you have money, you pay a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
You can get an immediate bonsai. Like you can buy a tree that's going to win the kokufu, and a lot of people do that. I talked about that in the last podcast, but you can do that, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But that product that they're buying, it took 50 years of work, or 150 years of work, or 200 years of work to get to that. So there's got to be a deeper cultural element that influences people as a whole, not necessarily on an individual level, but influences people on a whole to build something like that to get to an end product that looks like the quality that you see in Japan now, right? The problem in the States is it's very much so the same. It's instant gratification. I want a diamond right now,
Yeah.
but the quality level that you get in Japan, and I'm talking specifically about bonsai, the quality level that you get here versus what you get in the States, people look for in the States, they look for certain qualities in trees that they think are valuable. Fat trunk, big nabari, the S-curve, big movement to the tree, but they're lacking the details. There's no soft ramification. There's big scars on the trunk. You get the big girth, like the fatness to the trunk on like a trident maple that you've grown in the ground, but you don't get that clean look to it. There's major scars on the trunk. The branches are in the wrong spot, but the silhouette looks fine. So they're sacrificing the details for the larger picture, which is fine. If that's what you want to do, that's okay. But if you want to reach the quality level that you see here, and to me, quality is all about the details. It's all about the details. So if you want to get to that level of quality, you have to focus on the details, which means focusing on every step in the process to get to the end. What do you think?
In Japan, it's for example, Japanese maple. It's like to get a fat trunk, like big nevari. It's actually you just let it grow, keep growing. It's like you can get that, but how to stop? We actually care about that.
How to stop?
How to stop?
What do you mean? Like how to stop?
Like it's enough big.
Right, it's big enough, so it doesn't
big
need to get
enough.
any bigger. I know what you mean. Okay. So for example, like at the nursery right now, there's that one trident maple that has the huge nabari. But if you look at the nabari, which is the surface root structure, and then it goes to a thin trunk, and then the branches are super soft.
Yes.
How do you keep the branches soft?
Yes.
While at the same time getting that nabari on the tree? That's the hard part, right? People in the States and overseas, they want that fat nabari, they want the fat trunk, but they don't necessarily care about the details in the branches, and that's okay. You don't have to care about that; it's not a necessity. But if you want that same effect, how do you do that? And I think that's why the Japanese are so good. They focused on the final details of, okay, how do we maintain the soft little branches?
Yes.
But we also got this giant ass nabari to start with on the tree. Like, how do you do that?
It's actually hard to keep that. How it's like long term project, but it's collapse very easy. Just 1-2 years.
Without the proper work,
it's destroyed.
It's destroyed. Right. Right. Yeah. It's a mix of like applying the fertilizer correctly. Like when you're building a nabari like that, you want to apply major fertilizer to grow that out. But there's a limit to that because you don't obviously want to get fat, ugly branches at the same time. So there's a balance there between the two. And it's really hard to learn, and it's even harder to teach how to do that. Right? And that's why everybody's going to come to Maeoka-san's school in Japan to learn how to do that, right?
Maeoka-san's completely right. Patience. I think patience is such a good word to use for this, and the details, because every time I ask him, "Well, how do you get to this point?" He'll just say, "Oh, just let it grow." It's almost like his like just the saying, like, "Oh, just let it grow." And it's like, okay, and that I think is a big difference because, like you're saying, looking long into the future,
Right.
But the other thing, I mean, I do want to touch on one thing about the long-term future is also that people have to think about is the sustainability of collecting the trees, actually. Because maybe that is something that maybe people in the West should learn from the Japanese experience, is that you can actually get to a point where you don't have that much yamadori or wild material left.
Right.
Where now in Japan, it's actually quite hard to get collected material, and where maybe the long-term future aspect was kind of put on the side to maybe grab the trees, make some money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a huge push for that.
Yeah, and I think if people that are collecting in America and maybe Canada and the West should actually think about when they're collecting that, when that tree's gone and it's maybe hundreds of years old, it's actually gone.
Right.
For a long time.
No, I completely agree. Like there are lots of stories about. I mean, this was all. It was a lot of it was post World War II in Japan, but you know the boom in bonsai was the late '60s through the late '80s. You know, and during that period, people were collecting like crazy, particularly Itoigawa Shinpaku from the Niigata prefecture. And now it's illegal to collect those because so many of them got collected. They basically pillaged the mountainsides, and there are still trees there. You shouldn't say that there's nothing left, but there's a lot less there than there was before. Yeah. And the government recognized that was a problem, so they put a stop to it. So you know, it's just the nature of the market. You know, if something becomes valuable, everybody wants to be able to have access to it to then resell it to make a profit off of it, and that's fine. There are good things that come out of that, but at the same time, you do have to be aware that eventually that supply is going to run out. And there's also, you know, there's a little bit of a moral component to it, I think, as well. You know, if you're not careful as to how you collect those trees, you could be taking a 500-year-old tree out of the mountains, and within 2 weeks it's dead because you didn't collect it right, you didn't follow the proper procedures to maintain it afterwards, and it's gone forever. So that 500-year history, I mean, a tree that was there during, you know, the Tokugawa shogunate in Japan is now gone. And it'll never be here ever again, and that's your fault for having collected it improperly. So there is, I think, a certain moral component to that, to be able to recognize that, preserve that, you know, only collect the things that have a high likelihood of success of surviving after the fact. Yeah. And you know, a lot of the collectors in the States are really good about that. You know, really good about identifying those kinds of trees that they think they can collect and then maintaining those and making sure they stay alive. So, you know, when I buy Yamadori from collectors in the States, I always make sure to only work with the people who have, you know, at least a 90% success rate in what they pull out of the mountains. And that's hard to get to because it's like saying, you know, you come to Japan and you have a 90% success rate of every tree you wire going into the kokufu. It doesn't happen immediately. Like, you're going to kill a lot of stuff along the way to get there. But a lot of people have done a lot of research in the past and made a lot of mistakes in the past that you can learn from as a collector, so that you don't have to make those same mistakes if you're going out there to collect trees like that. So, you know, I think that's a super risky thing to do, go out and collect trees like that, but you should be aware of what you're doing and really study up on it before you go do that.
Yeah, you should. I agree.
Yeah, I always tell people too, like, you know, you look at all of the really good Yamadori in Japan. Let's just, you know, take the Itoigawa, for example, we were talking about earlier. You look at how many amazing Itoigawa collected, you know, Yamadori trees that you see in Japan. Japan, the landmass is only the size of California, and Niigata is an even smaller area. It's a very small area of Japan. There are thousands of gorgeous Shinpaku that have come out of that area. You look at the States, the Rocky Mountains, the Rocky Mountains themselves are probably, I'm just guessing here, but they're probably 10 times the length of all of Japan. You know, so you're looking at Japan and then shrinking that down to the Niigata region and then multiplying that out to the size of the Rocky Mountains. You're looking at what essentially seems like a never-ending supply of potentially awesome Yamadori trees. But that doesn't mean that they all need to be collected, and that doesn't mean that everybody should go out there and be, you know, pillaging the mountainsides to make $1 off of it. Like there has to be some element there of restraint.
Yes.
You know, and understanding the sustainability of it, not only of keeping those trees alive, but sustainability of the art in general. Yeah. Because the same thing will happen in the States. If too many people are out there doing that, the government will put a stop to it, and then you'll no longer be able to collect those trees. And that's not a good thing either. No. There does need to be a nice supply of Yamadori too. So, you know, it goes both ways, I guess.
Yeah. Gotta be good stewards.
Yeah.
Of the craft.
Absolutely.
And the environment.
Absolutely. Okay, so that I think that's going to do it for this podcast. So before we go, though, Maeoka-san, you've got a Facebook page, right? So
yes.
If people go to Facebook and they look up Naoki Maeoka, they'll find your Facebook page, right? And they can follow you there, right? So that's Naoki is your first name, and then Maeoka, which is your last name, is Maeoka, right? Maeoka. Maeoka.
Yes.
Okay. So if you guys out there that are listening want to follow Maeoka-san on social media, just go to Facebook and type in his name, and you can see some of his work there.
Yes.
And then Thomas, you are on Facebook, right? And what outlet is best for people to follow you on?
I have just an Instagram account, and I have a website, and it's www.notanautomaton.com.
I like that.
Which is very confusing, but if you, it's also my Instagram handle, so it's kind of the same thing. And if you go from there, you can just see that. If you search Tom Ulecki, you get on that.
Excellent. That's perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for agreeing to participate in the podcast. So
it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk to you guys next time then. All right.
Thank you.
All right. No problem.
I'm drunk.
Okay.
That's why we had beers before this.